2035, there's a headline about Leyla.
Yeah.
What will the headline say?
I want to solve the obesity problem. As an entrepreneur, it's important to fail. I had such a big desire to be in the driver's seat, and that's what it took.
You were 8 months pregnant
Yes.
when you decided to start Endocare?
He sensed that I'm going through a challenge, and he sent me a text message. You're a stronger woman because of your daughter. It's hard to follow your passion when you have some things to lose, or at least you think you have.
I always say that the best thing about consulting are the people that you work with. You're always working with the best, pushing each other to learn more, do more, be more, and go even further. Which is why I'm very excited to be able to go through these conversations with some of our alumni who've gone on to even greater success beyond their consulting career, and learn from them about the high points, the low points, the achievements, the wins, and the lessons that we can all take and apply in our future journeys. Leyla Azizova, founder and CEO of Endocare. Welcome to Unscripted.
Thank you, Karim. Welcome.
So last time you and I were together, we were standing on a stage in some hotel ballroom talking to the entire team in your consulting career. And
Yes.
now here we are sitting at a different stage with you as a CEO of a healthcare startup. So
Yes.
I'd love to go through this whole journey. I wanted to start by saying you're sort of the poster child for globalization. I think you even describe yourself as a global citizen.
Yes.
So your parents are Azerbaijani.
Yes.
You were born in Russia, grew up in Germany,
Yes.
studied in the UK,
Yeah.
then did 6 months of community work in India,
Yeah.
then joined Strategy and in Germany, then moved to the Middle East. So
Yes.
clearly that global mindset is there.
Yes.
But before, and I'd love to go through this whole journey, but before we do that, I wanted to ask about, I was looking at your education profile on LinkedIn, and you said you've done a Master's of Philosophy in Innovation and Strategy,
Yes.
which is not something I see a lot. So tell me, what got you there? How did that happen?
Yes, so that was my master's after I did an undergrad in business and economics. And it's a very unique master's program at Cambridge. It's very research focused, and it's actually the first year of a 4-year PhD program. So I got into it thinking I will complete my master's and then most likely stay on for the PhD, which, as you know, for people with a German background is quite common to have PhDs. And I come also from an academic family where that was a very normal expectation. The reason I chose that master's is because it was a program where they select only 15 people, and there's great professors, and you get to do research on the innovations, business innovations that you think are most interesting and that will shift the way we operate in business and the way our economies will work. And I thought that was very interesting, and I also like the fact that it's very independent. So it's not only going into classrooms and listening to professors and then taking exams, but it's research based. And the kind of research that I chose to do was on industrial clusters, and I chose Silicon Valley as an industrial cluster. And I got to go to Silicon Valley and do research on how companies in Silicon Valley, as a very big hub for entrepreneurship, how they collaborate versus compete with each other. And Cambridge was very supportive of that research. It ended up being an interesting and successful piece of research. So that's what interested me.
So this whole attraction to startups and innovation was there from the beginning.
Exactly. And you know, when you look at your life now, backwards, the dots sort of connect, and it seems like it was all linear, which obviously
wasn't.
It wasn't. It was very messy. But I think that's when that interest in startups started early on, going to San Francisco. And I also chose not to continue with the PhD. That was also an interesting learning at that time, even though Cambridge was a great university and I loved my time there. And I was offered a PhD space. And I was just too impatient, you know, to go out and go into the real world and start working and learn from more senior and experienced people and leaders. So I wanted to do that, and thought maybe I will do a PhD later on. which I haven't.
It's great that you had the awareness to actually
Yeah.
make this decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've had people who've done 6-7 years of
Studying.
pre-medical studies,
Yeah.
for example, and then only when they finish they realize that this is not what they want to do, or lawyers and but it's good. So this self-awareness and this assessment of where you are and what you want, is that something that was a conscious decision or trait that you had?
For sure, it's very conscious. I mean, it was the safe thing to do, right? Because it's a university, it's very cozy, and of course the work itself can be challenging academically, but you have a great support system in terms of supervisors, professors, the college that you live in. It has that Harry Potter feel as well, so you live within a college, you know, you have all of your traditions, and that felt very safe, but it didn't feel like it's what would challenge me enough and make me grow enough. And I think I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from, whether it's from my parents or just my background of moving a lot and experiencing different cultures, but I always look for the challenge and for the adventure. So it just wasn't enough for me at that stage, you know, as a 21-year-old. I wanted to experience more. And that's how I chose to go into consulting.
I was going to say, so if you like challenge and you like to learn a lot, is that where consulting came up as an option? Yes,
it was a very natural choice for me, consulting. You know, the impression that I had of consultants when they came to career events or whenever I spoke to any consultants, they were always telling me about how they're solving some challenging problem, they're cracking a case and solving a problem, and I like that. I like the fact that you get to work on problems, you have to be smart. I like that consulting selected very smart people, so that the whole selection process with the case studies, I actually personally enjoyed, and I thought I would be working with smart people. And I also liked the pace. So it seemed like a job that's very intense.
Which you liked.
I liked that. I think as a 21-year-old, that's very exciting, right? You have to adapt quickly and you learn very fast, and it's a very energizing and intense time, and that's what I wanted back then. And I still think, you know, for people who are graduating from university and they want to make a big range of different experiences, I always say consulting is a great start because you learn so much.
Okay, so you got into consulting, doing well in Germany,
yes.
Strategy, and then you chose to move to the Middle East. What prompted that?
Yes, that was again the call for challenge and adventure, I think. But I was for 3.5 years in Strategy in Germany. Very happy there, very happy in my consulting job. I worked with great partners and mentors, and I had just received my promotion to manager, and the one thing I was lacking was, I just needed that new adventure of seeing a new culture, a new way of working, a new way of living. It was never supposed to be permanent. I just wanted to experience a different office for a while and then come back. And I spoke with the partners I was working with about this. And they were very supportive of my career and of my wish to go into a different office. And no one, I think, expected that it would be for such a long term. It was supposed to be just a short stint, but they helped me connect with other offices and see if I can do what's now called a secondment. Mm-hmm. So you go, you work in a different office, and then you come back. And, I thought this is a global company, so why not make use of that and actually have that experience? And back then, it was not very common. So I remember in our German office, we had a few consultants who had gone to Johannesburg back. I don't know if this was also relevant for the Middle East, but because the Johannesburg office in South Africa, it was just being established, they had gone to do some business development, but no one had ever gone into any other office, and unless they moved somewhere. So I kind of had to establish that process myself, which was interesting. And the partners that were helping me, they connected me to Melbourne and London and Dubai. And obviously I had the Johannesburg option. So then I had these 4 offices that I had to consider. And I looked at what is the place where I can do great things in healthcare, because that was my practice that I was aligned with. Mm-hmm. Where is healthcare really thriving in terms of the practice within Strategy and also the health system. And Dubai was the one that just emerged because the UAE at that time and still now is making great investments into healthcare, right? So the project sounded very interesting, and it was not too far away from my home in Germany, so I could still go back on weekends if I wanted to see my parents. So that's how I chose Dubai. But again, I thought, 1 year, maybe 2 max, and then I will go back.
That's a very common thing for people
For
who've been
people
in
in
Dubai
Dubai
for
to
a very
say,
long time.
yes.
I only came here for 2 years.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
I think one of the people we interviewed, he said the same thing, and then
Yeah.
he's been here for 18.
For 18 years, and I've been now since 2018, so I've been now also for 7 years, and I just love the place. I felt so at home, and I still feel at home in Dubai. In terms of my professional work, I love the fact that I'm in a place where the governments and companies are investing in healthcare, right? So it's not as it is in Europe, where you have these big legacy systems and then you have to modernize and restructure, but you're actually building things from scratch. And you feel like you're building the future of healthcare from scratch, which I'm very passionate about.
Where did this interest in, so you mentioned you already had aligned to healthcare. Where did this interest in healthcare come from?
I'm not exactly sure how it came, because as far as I can remember, even when I was a child, I always wanted to be a doctor. My parents are both scientists, and my dad is a researcher in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So I think through that and conversations in our family about medicine, that could have been a reason. I also think culturally, in the Azerbaijani culture, and I think Arab culture is similar to that, medicine is this very noble profession that smart kids do.
And it used to be that you had to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, or your parents weren't happy.
Exactly. So maybe
that's a bit different now.
Yeah, it's different, thank God. But maybe it was that, and I was always interested in academics, so maybe it's from that. But I always wanted to become a doctor. And then I had this moment when I was 16 years old. I interned at a hospital in Germany for 1 month. It was part of a school program. And I was so disillusioned. And at that point, I decided I will most likely not be a doctor, but I just want to have I want to be able to work in healthcare and be able to design those conditions, but I don't want to be just following the conditions that I'm put in. So healthcare always stayed close to me, and I knew I want to do something in healthcare, but not as a doctor, but in a different capacity. And it's interesting that I now
That's the consulting side of you.
Yes.
Wanting to redesign healthcare.
And shape and improve. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So eventually you did make the jump to a healthcare startup, and we'll talk about that. But you also, because we have a lot of people who are always asking this question when I'm in consulting, and I want to get into being an entrepreneur, or sometimes I'm in industry coming into consulting. But you did it in a very methodical way. Tell me a little bit about how you made this decision.
Methodical, yes. Although even there, Kareem, I would say, looking back, it's very methodical, right? Like step A, step 2, step 1, step 2, step 3. And it's not exactly like that. You have also a bit of a messy process where you talk to different people, you get different information, and then you have doubt again. And then, so looking back, it always seems great, methodical, but in the moment, it wasn't that much. The only thing I did, which may be a bit more methodical, was the decision to do an LOA. So I took a leave of absence from my work in consulting, because the decision to leave and start a different company, it was not an easy one I made. I was at this point already a principal. I was very invested in my career, my team, my work, and I had to be, and probably a bit of a risk-averse consultant, so I had to be sure that this idea I have and the new venture in obesity, that it was worthwhile leaving my job. So I took an LOA, and I can recommend that to anyone who's in consulting and wants to explore something else, because I don't believe in I do my day job and then at night, I work on the side on creating something else. I think that's a bit messy, and that means that you're not doing either one properly. So I took some time apart, and I said, for 10 weeks, morning to night, I'm only going to work on this idea. And by the end of the 10 weeks, I want to decide on, what's the addressable market size, what's the business model, who would I do this with, and so on. So I had set myself a plan, and I guess that's the methodical part.
Yes, because normally it's follow your passion, all these wonderful advice that sounds great, but isn't really practical.
It's hard to follow your passion when you've I mean, it's great whoever can do it, right? But once you've had an established career and you have some things to lose, or at least you think you have, it's a bit difficult to do it in that way. And this worked a lot better for me, because at the end of those 10 weeks, I just knew I want to do it.
Back to your point in terms of what looked methodical, maybe wasn't so. You actually, before you started Endocare, you actually started a previous company.
Exactly,
so
the predecessor.
You went through the LOA, you did the thinking. In theory, you did it in a structured way, and you found it, and still it didn't work. So tell me a little bit about what you learned from that and how that changed your perspective.
For sure. It was a failure, actually, right? My first venture, the version 1.0 before Endocare we can say is 2.0, was in a sense did not work. It was a failure. And what I did there is I decided, my idea was that I want to solve the obesity problem.
Why did you pick obesity?
Obesity. Well, I wanted to work on something that impacts a lot of people. It's a big problem, right? And just to give you the stats, because I find this interesting, the rate of obesity, overweight and obesity in the UAE is around 40% of the population, right? And globally, the average is 18. So in the Middle East, obesity is a massive problem. And obesity is not only a problem in itself, right? It's not that you lose some weight and then you look better and you fit into better clothes, but the idea is that obesity underpins a lot of other healthcare conditions, heart disease, diabetes, mental health problems, even cognitive decline like Alzheimer's. So it's a very important central problem that impacts a lot of people. So for me, it was clear that I want to do something in this space. Also back then, and this is 2021-22, there was a new novel treatment in obesity, which is the GLP-1 medications. You know, the injections that
Still
now
quite controversial.
Quite controversial, and they're being misused. But in terms of the scientific value of those injections, it's groundbreaking, right? And this is how you can actually solve a disease, not only a symptom, but a disease in itself, a metabolic disease. So they were not approved yet in the UAE, but I saw that there's something new coming, and that it's an interesting angle to take. So that's how I decided on obesity. But then I decided, and I think I was more risk averse back then, I decided to do it in a way where I'm incubating it in a larger digital health company, right? So from day one, and I was talking with a digital health company in Denmark, I had a big investment and a lot of resources in terms of the technology development for a virtual obesity platform and contacts in a network. And I received a great salary and some ownership. And I thought, this is how I'm going to build it, because it's minimum risk.
So have your cake and eat it approach.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm going to have all the financial backing. And
exactly.
Didn't work out.
I think it was not the right way of doing it. And maybe I had to do that in order to do it differently now. For sure, I had to learn from that, because I did Endocare very differently. But the problem with that was that we were incubated, and I had 2 other co-founders as well. We were incubated in this huge company that, and we had shareholders, but we had very little ownership in the company. So there was this conflicting interest between the founders versus the shareholders of where that venture is going to go in the future, right? And we did not have as much or any agency over the very important decisions. And that felt quite restrictive, actually. And ultimately, it didn't work. So after around 10 months, I walked away from that. And it wasn't.
That was quick. Is that also you being very self-aware and being able
and
to
also there were clear roadblocks for the venture. There were specific roadblocks, and I knew you can't turn that around. We were incubating it in Denmark with the idea to bring it to the UAE, and me understanding the UAE market, I knew it has to be done differently, and I wanted to make those shots and take those decisions. And interestingly, with one of my colleagues from that first venture, Yannick, he became my co-founder for the second, for Endocare, and we said we will do it differently. And we got out of that first venture.
And within the 10 months, at what point did you say, this is not working? How long did it take you to realize this?
Around 7-8 months or so. I saw the challenges. I saw challenges before, but around 7-8 months.
And how did that feel? Because you this was a big decision.
Yeah.
You had planned for it. You did
Yeah.
it. You executed.
Yeah.
How did it feel to realize that what you were doing
It was quite
wasn't working?
difficult, actually. And I talk about it easily now, but at that point it was quite difficult. And I think also, for instance, just now I called it a failure, and there's still a little bit of a cringe when I say that word, because I'm not, or I used to be not very comfortable with failure or talking about failure. By the way, I think it's also a cultural thing here,
Yes.
right? Whereas in the US and in Silicon Valley, it's a badge of honor. You have to
Yes.
talk about your
We
failures.
haven't reached that stage yet.
Yeah, we haven't reached that. And I think it's very important because, of course, as an entrepreneur, it's important to fail because that's how you learn and that's how you then do it better. But it was difficult at that point in time. But I did have motivation because I knew that I can do it differently, right? And I was very happy that I had my co-founder, Yannick, who saw the same opportunity with me, and we wanted to do it differently by ourselves in the UAE.
And clearly, you didn't have the reaction of, no, let me run back into employment and so on. So the whole entrepreneurship, and I want to do this, and I believe it was still there.
I was convinced of the problem. I was convinced of the solution, but just adapted. So in Denmark, with the incubated model, we were working on a full-on technology solution, fully virtual. And with Endocare, we built a hybrid solution. So essentially with Endocare, people who are obese, they can access our care either virtually or they can come and see us in the clinic. It's an important part, right, in Dubai, in the Middle East, that physical contact and interaction that patients have with doctors, it is important. Not everyone is comfortable having care just on a phone.
For those who don't know, describe the mission of Endocare and what it's trying to do.
The mission of Endocare is to treat metabolic disease. And first and foremost, we look at obesity, of course, also at diabetes and other metabolic conditions, but first and foremost, obesity. And we want to do that in a way that's holistic and that's sustainable. So there's three aspects of our care model. The first one is very high premium doctors treatment. That means that you speak with an endocrinologist and you receive treatment to address the disease, which it is a disease in itself, obesity. It is a hormonal condition. The second part is, and you receive treatment also through the GLP-1 injections that we use. The second part is that you have lifestyle coaching, because a big part of obesity is your lifestyle. What you eat, how you move, how you manage stress, how you sleep. And we believe in sustainable lifestyle change. It's very difficult to change people's behavior, so it has to be done in the right way, slowly, with small goals. And every patient has a one-on-one coach that they work with on their lifestyle. And the third aspect is mental health, because we also see that a lot of people with obesity, they have some type of mental health condition, be it binge eating, overeating, depression and anxiety. So we want to address that as well. And all of this is delivered either through technology, virtually, or physically in our clinic.
Okay. So you said you learned from the first incubated model, and then we want to do things differently.
Yeah.
What is it that you did differently with Endocare, whether it was from the business sense or from the way you designed the program?
Yeah, so the program is designed in the hybrid way, as I mentioned, very much adjusted to the concerns and the needs of the UAE population, which can then also be replicated for Saudi, even in things like language, the types of doctors, the types of health coaches they have, the way they are contacted by our team and led throughout the journey.
It strikes me also, Leyla, that, because you had done the research in Silicon Valley, you'd studied in something that was totally virtual. Endocare sounds more human, more built on interaction and relationship. It sounds like the sort of because especially right now with all the talk about AI and so on, whether it's in healthcare or everywhere, everyone's very keen. All the people who are starting tech companies, they're very keen on disassociating us from each other and just using technology. Whereas you understand the importance of both. Was that a conscious decision in the design?
Very conscious, because it's healthcare, right? And it's something very personal. There is nothing more important than your own health, and something like obesity. People have the types of patients that we have, they've gone decades with some type of struggle. And a lot of times it's an emotional burden, and there's been bullying, and there's been different crash diets, and there's other conditions, and they're worried about, how long they will live and so on. It's a very personal thing, and you cannot solve that with technology only. You need that human touch, I think. Maybe there will be a point in time when you will have more technology, when people feel more comfortable. We will all have AI companions. I saw in the Experience Center today, we were talking to an AI agent, and we use them in the clinic and in some parts of customer service and marketing as well. And that's great. It's helping, right? It's complementing. But you will always need that personal touch. You need that doctor. It's very important. I think it's a bit theoretical and unpractical to think you can do it digitally only and the future is AI only. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you, but not sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah,
Let's see how
yeah. And also especially in this region, right, where personal relationships are so important.
Okay, so that's one element in terms of the design, but you
Yes.
also, I think, did it differently in the sense that you didn't have a backer or an investor in the beginning.
Exactly.
So
we decided to, and this is where all the risk came in, we decided to put our own savings into the business. We did not take an investor from day one. So it was bootstrapped, which is quite uncommon, by the way, in healthcare startups. And I loved it. I loved it that way.
So what happened to Leyla, the risk-averse Leyla that took the LOA, that made sure she did the analysis, that decided to have the backed model because that was minimized risk, to suddenly put all her savings into something?
I think it was because I had done it over several months and I'd gone deeper and deeper into it, it was probably a level of confidence that I got where, yes, this is going to work. There is definitely a need for this in the market. Also, I think over time, you think, for sure, a business may not work, but why not try it, right? And this is sort of an idea that I had more and more. If I'm 80, 90-year-old one day and I look back, and even if something has not worked out, I'm sure it's not the end of the world, right? So I just wanted to go all in, and I had such a big desire to be in the driver's seat. And that's what it took to be in the driver's seat. It took putting your own, skin in the game, right? And putting your own investments in. And I'm very glad that we did it. I would also advise other entrepreneurs. It's not possible in every industry, I know. Some industries are more capital intensive and you can't, but I would definitely recommend, and even if I sometimes, as an angel, when I look at some companies, I find those companies that were bootstrapped fascinating. Because the level of ownership that the founders have, you can't really replicate that when you've had a VC from day one and they've received a single-digit share in ownership, right? It's just not the same.
We also find that when you don't have other people's money, you tend to be much more cost-effective.
Yes.
in how you run things.
You waste less, for sure. We set ourselves a goal that we want to be fully self-sustainable. We want to really cut out all the noise and deliver what's most important to our patients. Do it in a lean way where we don't waste. And once we're profitable, that we then find an investor.
Which you just did, I think.
Which we just did for expansion. And that's exactly what we did. And it's just fantastic to be able to make these decisions, right? And Endocare is our baby. We own it and we make the decisions. And nobody could care about the outcome or the future of Endocare as much as we do. So it makes sense that we're the ones driving it.
Since you mentioned babies.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking, I always ask this question when I have a woman with us, and then I started thinking that this is not fair. Why am I only asking the women? How do you manage being an entrepreneur? But I never ask the men. And of course, it's part of the bias that I grew up with as well. But in your particular case, you were 8 months pregnant when you decided to start Endocare. So that is a physical condition that a man cannot replicate or understand. So how did that factor into your decision? I mean, you're putting your life savings, but you're 8 months pregnant. You're about to start something that needs a lot of effort. How did that decision come about?
That's the point. It didn't really factor in too much because I just knew I have to do this now, coming out of the Vima experience, which was the first venture. I knew I had to do it now. I didn't want to waste time because these drugs were just being approved in the UAE market, so I wanted to be quick. And because I didn't have a baby before, I was a little bit ignorant towards what it takes to be with a newborn, raise a child, which was maybe good in hindsight that I was so ignorant. Maybe I would not have done it otherwise. But I just wanted to do it, so I didn't factor that in too much. I love the challenge, I love the adventure, so I just went all in. But in all honesty, I did have cold feet at some point, and that's after my daughter Sarah was born, a few weeks after. And it hit me
when you realize how much
yeah,
attention
how much
this new human
attention
needs.
and how much it takes from you. And that was the time when we were I had to make contractual commitments as well for Endocare, and I did consider not doing it, right? And I did think that maybe I cannot do both. And it was a very difficult time, and I was sitting with this decision. And this is very personal, but my father, who I'm very close to emotionally, but he was not obviously in the same country with me, and he did not see me during this time. But he sensed that I'm going through a challenge, and he sent me a text message, and he didn't even tell me what to do, but he was just saying, Leyla, look back at everything that you've achieved in your life and all the milestones and all the challenges that you've gone through, and just realize that you can do whatever you want. And the fact that you have Sarah just makes you stronger. It does not make you weaker. You're a stronger person, you're a stronger woman because of your daughter. And I will always remember that message. It was that one message that after reading that, I went and I signed the papers and I committed to Endocare.
Does your father know that he was so instrumental?
Yes, he does. He has this, he's a very calm, quiet researcher, and then he has these moments where he shows up and he just says the right things. And I think my advice also for any other, be it man or woman, but especially for women, maybe especially for mothers who want to build something, just make sure you have the right people who support you in your life, because you will always have, naysayers. That won't work, and why do you think you can do it, and this is difficult, and someone else has a similar idea, and so on. There will always be people who doubt you, right? But then when it's difficult, you're going through something, those few people that can really give you strength and give you faith in yourself, I think that's important, and you have to surround yourself with those people.
Absolutely. Do you have brothers or sisters?
Yes, I do. I have a brother who's 2 years older.
But it sounds like from what you're telling me that the way you were brought up, there was no difference in terms of expectation. You were both being told, do what you want, go.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
That's
yeah.
also an important.
It's very important, yeah. It's also very important, and I think also the way we're raising my daughter Sarah, there shouldn't be a difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. One thing that we didn't mention in the beginning of your journey, I wanted to ask about that. You delayed starting consulting and went to India on community service.
Yes.
What was the thinking there?
So in India, I worked in an education NGO.
Okay.
It's the biggest NGO in India, actually, one of the biggest. It's called Teach for India, and it helps kids who are living and growing up in the slums get access to great educators, and that can change their entire lives and the goals that they have. And
this is not a typical thing to do outside.
It's not a typical thing to do.
Where did it
but
come from?
Apart from healthcare and medicine, education is also a big part of my life, and I come from a line of educators. So my grandparents, my mom, all of my mom's family, they're all in teaching. They're all educators, and I wanted to give back in some way. I mean, I know that I've had a very privileged upbringing in the sense that I had parents who were very supportive of me and my academic achievements. I studied in great universities, and that's not always the case, obviously, for many people in different countries. And I wanted to give back. I had that sense of giving back. I don't know exactly where it came from.
Usually we get that at the end, towards sort of the latter part of our career, but you had it right in the beginning, which is nice to see.
Yes, I think it was also, because I had made the decision to join consulting, and it felt like I will go into consulting and then I will be in this machinery of learning and developing and becoming a great manager. And before that, I should give back.
Okay.
And it was very random why India and not, for example, another country. It was just an opportunity that presented itself. Again, it was it seemed like a great adventure as well, right? To go there. I went there by myself, lived there by myself in India for nearly 6 months, and I worked there, and it was a wonderful experience in Mumbai.
So the theme of challenge and adventure is
Yeah,
constant.
it's there. It's
Yes,
constant there.
throughout.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, excellent. I want to do a few sort of quick fire questions with
yeah.
you, just try to get a
Yeah.
sense of different things. So you mentioned that from when you were a kid, you wanted to be a doctor. Was there
Yeah.
a particular moment where that triggered that?
No, honestly not. I don't have an inspiring story of I saw some sick person or something
You can always
that I
make one
wanted
up.
to. I think it was my dad's influence with his research in the family. I think it was, thinking that medicine is so noble, that you need to be very intelligent and being interested in academics. I think this is where it came from,
Yeah,
and
fair
wanting to
enough.
help people.
The influence of parents is always great anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And was there, if you look back, because as you were saying, when you look back, it all connects, but was there a decision that you took that if you had taken it differently, your whole life would have been gone down a different path?
Yeah. I think coming to Dubai, probably, because I came with 2 suitcases. I mean, I did not think that I would stay here one day, meet my husband here, have my family here, have a business here. It just seemed very temporary. And specifically, I think choosing Dubai and then falling in love with the city and with the community here and just building my life here. I think that's the decision.
Changed everything.
Yeah, changed everything.
Maybe we already know the answer to this one, but is there sort of a hidden mentor in your life that sort of influenced you and guided you along the way?
Yeah, I mentioned my father before,
Yes.
right? But I would also mention in this the hidden mentor, the very strong and very wise women in my family. Throughout generations, I think I've been very lucky and blessed. I have a grandmother she had 10 kids and a career, and she was very, very respected and great person in our community. My mom was a great teacher and very wise and bold. And I would even say, my daughter, who's 2, Sarah, she's also shaping my thinking, obviously, because I just make decisions in a different way. I think I try to be a better person because of her. I try to be a role model for her. So she's in a way also my little mentor.
So you had role models in the family already, and now you're creating maybe a future role.
I'm trying.
Is there something that drives you today that maybe 10 years ago wasn't even something that was on the radar?
Yeah, 10 years ago it was very different. Today I think about longevity a lot. And this is in my personal, I don't know if you are into the longevity space at all, Karim, or not. It's
I'm fully aware that I'm not on the right track in terms of my habits.
I think it's also this very trendy topic, and I don't agree with everything that people say in longevity. But in my professional work, obviously with Endocare, our main concern is metabolic health, and we think that metabolic health underpins all these other aspects of your health, and solving that can lead you to have a healthier life. But we're also now expanding into a new phase of thinking about preventative health, right? So what can you do now? Let's say Karim, now let's say you're 40 years old, right?
I wish.
Yeah. Let's say you're 40 years old and you don't have any conditions, you don't have any complaints, but we actually look at your genetic risk and we look at different biomarkers, and we see that while you may be chronologically 40 years old, you're actually 47, right? In terms of your biology. So you're aging faster than the days in the calendar, and that's an issue, right? And that's something that you can address now. And at Endocare, we think that the majority of that is through lifestyle, changing your lifestyle. And that's a fascinating topic.
Something you don't think about when you're in your 20s.
We don't think about that. And I think about it now, obviously for our patients, but also for me personally. Now being a mother and having a child, you obviously want to be healthy and around for as long as possible. And it's something that I think about a lot. A lot of my day is around longevity research, and now developing a new service in longevity for Endocare. And all the books and podcasts are all longevity.
Yeah, but please don't turn into that.
Brian Johnson.
Yes, he's that millionaire in Silicon Valley who just basically takes like 60 supplements a day or something and spends his entire day measuring himself. That sounds horrific.
Sleeping in a chamber. Yeah, that sounds horrific. But this is also, you know, the very extreme interpretation of longevity that I just don't agree with. I think it's about, it's about the smaller behavior change.
All right, final question.
Yeah.
It's 2035. There's a headline about Leyla.
Yeah.
What will the headline say?
Leyla developed a metabolic health platform that keeps hundreds of thousands of people in this region healthy and allows them to have longer and better lives.
That's a wonderful vision to be working towards.
Yes.
Leyla, it's been great to have you. Thank you very much.
So great to be here. Thank you, Karim.